Welcome to the channel Heritage of the Caucasus. We speak of the past to understand the present. We search for roots to see what truly surrounds us today. Today's story is not about a hero, nor is it about an enemy. It is about an ideologue, a man whose thoughts did not die with his body. A man whose words still echo in armies, in political speeches, in textbooks where Armenia has been erased like an unwanted comma. His name was Ziya Gökalp. He was born in the late 19th century in the Ottoman city of Diyarbakir to a Kurdish family. But he became the chief architect of Turkish nationalist thought. He never held a weapon. He wrote, and that's why he remains dangerous. He claimed that a nation is not land, not documents, not a border. A nation is language, a nation is religion, a nation is culture. And so, those who speak differently, pray differently, feel differently, must not belong. That idea is the seed of exclusion, of deportation, of genocide. His books were read by the ones who drafted the plans for removal. His words, like an underground current, still power the ideology of modern Turkey. And not only Turkey, but its little brother in the Caucasus, the one dreaming of joining a great tyrannic empire. This video is not about the past. It is about the system, about how thoughts become policy, about how a man with a pen becomes an architect of violence, and why Armenians today need not only weapons, not only agreements, but knowledge. Knowledge to understand where it all began. Ziya Gökalp, the ideologue of exclusion. All numbers written out. In the year 1876, in the city of Diyarbakir, Ziya Gökalp was born. Kurdish blood ran through his veins, but his mind belonged to pan-Turkism. He did not simply deny his origin, he transformed it into a doctrine of exclusion. He studied German philosophers, Herder, Fichte, Nietzsche. He admired French sociologists. But like an alchemist, he blended foreign philosophies to craft an ideology designed to erase entire peoples. Gokalp wrote, "A nation is not just a population. A nation is unity. Unity of language, of faith, of morality, of tradition. Anything that does not fit must be removed, erased, reformed, or expelled." He wrote word for word, "Those who do not speak our language, who do not belong to our morality, who are not part of our religion, are not part of the nation. They are strangers." Strangers like the Armenians, the Greeks, the Assyrians, the Jews. All those who lived in the Ottoman Empire, not as Turks, but as others. Gokalp believed that a great nation must be built through cultural cleansing. Not religious, not legal, cultural. Through schools, through language, through propaganda, through the planting of correct behavior and controlled memory. He did not write destroy. He wrote re-educate, push out, replace, rewrite. But history knows how those words sound when uniforms appear. His books were read by those who later gave orders to cleanse the streets, erase the names, shut down the schools, rename the cities, rewrite the textbooks. Gokalp became the ideologue of the Young Turks. The ideas he wrote with ink became the logic of massacre, of deportation, of cultural erasure. His pen was not just sharp, it was the framework of a political knife. If Gokalp had spoken only about Armenians, it would still have been a crime. But he spoke of everyone who was different. That is why his ideology is not just a weapon against Armenia. It is a blueprint for how the modern Turkish nation was shaped, through exclusion, through transformation, through the erasure of memory. The greatest lies always begin as elegant thoughts. First it is philosophy, then ideology, then machinery. Ziya Gökalp never held a gun, but he was the man who gave violence its logic. He created a language in which violence could be explained as necessity. He wrote formulas where human lives were reduced to obstacles on the road to national rebirth. In his writings, there is no screaming, no direct call to slaughter. There is calm, a cold, ideological calculation. He did not say, "Kill the Armenians." He wrote, "Culture is the cement of the nation. Anything that cannot be included must be removed." He did not say, "Massacre." He wrote, "A new nation must be purified from foreign elements in order to become whole." That is how a machine speaks. Not a man, not a soul, not a conscience, but a system, cold, self-satisfied, justified by ideology. In the 20th century, this system was unleashed in the South Caucasus, in Anatolia, in villages, in mountains. When they slaughtered, burned, expelled, No one shouted, "Long live Gokalp," but they followed his instructions. Ziya Gökalp died in the year 1924. But his ideology did not die. It entered schools, it entered armies, it entered party programs, it entered flags. It does not live in words, it lives in action. When Armenian names are erased from Turkish textbooks, when ancient churches are called monasteries of eastern Anatolia, when maps of the Caucasus show no Artsakh, when Armenians are described as relocated Christians, that is not a dictator speaking. That is ideology. That is Gokalp speaking. He taught that a nation must be pure, not by blood, but by culture, by spirit, by language, by obedience. Today, his words echo in the speeches of officials, even if they have never read his books. Because Gokalp has become part of the system's code. They no longer need him as a philosopher. They need him as a justification. To speak of the future without recognizing the past. To build unity by erasing memory. To use the word peace as a disguise for exclusion. His ideas are not archives. They are scripts, and Turkey follows this script. Azerbaijan follows this script. Every step against Armenians, against Greeks, against Kurds, against Assyrians is not chaos. It is construction. If you do not understand how your enemy is built, you have already lost, even if he stays silent. If you do not read the books your enemy reads, you are not debating. You are walking into a trap. Ziya Gökalp is not just a historical figure. He is a foundation, a way of thinking, a strategic program that Turkey still follows. If Armenians, politicians, diplomats, analysts do not study him, they speak of peace without knowing the map of war. Where can you read this ideology? One book, Turkification, Islamization, Modernization, the pillars of his doctrine. Another, The Principles of Turkism, translated into English. It must be read by anyone who speaks on international platforms. In it, he writes, cultural unity is more important than political unity. A state may contain many peoples, but a nation must be pure. Jacob Landau's Pan-Turkism in Turkey is one of the most respected Western studies. It traces how Gokalp's ideas moved from theory to practice, from the Young Turks to Erdogan. Eric Zurcher's Turkey, A Modern History, a neutral academic work, shows how Gokalpism still lives through education, the army, the law. Why must Armenians know this? So we do not waste time asking who started what, but instead say clearly why it continues. So that in talks with Western diplomats, we can say, you speak of democracy in Turkey, but do you know that Turkish schools are built on a philosophy of exclusion? So that in negotiations with Europe or the United States, we can say, the ideology your NATO partner follows declares that an Armenian can never be part of the nation by definition. Knowledge is not just a shield. Knowledge is a silent sword. And today, we need that sword. The West knows who Ziya Gökalp was. His books are translated. His quotes are studied in universities. His legacy is visible. They know what he wrote. They know his ideas are written into constitutions, into school programs, into cultural policies. But they stay silent. France knows. America knows. Europe knows. Russia knows. They know, but they call it tradition, heritage, cultural uniqueness. Why? Because Turkey is a market. Because Azerbaijan is gas. Because geopolitics matters more than memory. Because Armenians are inconvenient. Because to tell the truth is to admit you are funding and arming those who follow the blueprint of ideological exclusion. The West is not blind. It simply looks away, and that is its own danger. When an enemy is honest, you know where he stands. But when a so-called ally closes his eyes, he becomes the wall you crash into again and again. Historians know, archives know, but diplomacy stops them. Fear of losing control over Turkey silences them. So they say this is their internal affair. But genocide is not an internal affair. And yes, the Persians know. Gokalp wrote clearly, the Turks must be freed from Persian influence, from Iranian culture, in order to be truly themselves. They know, but fear admitting that near their borders rises an ideology in which Persians are the enemy. And yes, the Jews know. The Jewish people are among the most educated on earth. They know who Gokalp was. They know what he wrote about them. But between knowledge and interest, they choose security, drones, alliances, arms deals. While Armenians are killed with their weapons, they stay silent. And Georgia? Too close, too fragile. They know that one day they may be next. But diplomacy demands a smile, so they stay quiet, afraid of falling breccia to the wrong side of gas pipelines and global deals. Ziya Gökalp is dead, but his ideas march on. In speeches, in maps, in tanks, in education. He was not a soldier, he was an ideologue. The ideologue of exclusion. And we are a people who remember. Our strength is not in slogans. Our strength is in the fact that we know. We understand what they are doing. We know where it came from. We know this is not a reaction, not emotion, not chaos. It is a system. And if we do not speak about it, no one will. This video is not an accusation. It is memory. It is a lesson. It is a shield. It is a voice. It is heritage of the Caucasus.